This filter is so fucking cute. So some of you know that I have been diving back into the true crime side of TikTok. Well, the true crime world in general. And in doing so, I came across I guess you could call it a cold case. I mean, it's an unsolved case, but it was very interesting. Let's talk about it. Who unalived Jessica Chambers? Who is Jessica Chambers, you might ask? Jessica was a beautiful, intelligent, very loved teenage cheerleader from a small town of Cortland, Mississippi. And when I say small town, yes, I mean everybody knows everybody, but not small town safe where you can leave your doors unlocked and your cars unlocked. Most people had some type of criminal background in some way, shape, or form, whether it was a misdemeanor or something big in the town of Cortland. Even Jessica's dad spent a couple of years in prison. When she was 3 years old, her parents actually divorced and her dad remarried and gave her several step-siblings, but she wound up staying with her mom. Jessica got along with everybody, but her closest, strongest relationship was with her older brother, Ben. Unfortunately, Jessica lost her brother, Ben, to a tragic car accident in, I think it was 2012. And when that happened, she started hanging out with the wrong crowd. She was even arrested at one point for the distribution of Mary Jane, and even found herself dating a man in jail by the name of Travis. I want to say he was around 28 years old. But anyway, on December 6, 2014, Jessica told her mom she was going to run really quickly to the gas station and get some gas, and she would be right back. Nothing out of the ordinary. Several hours goes by, and her mom starts to become concerned because she should have been home way before now. So she starts texting her. She even sends her a jokingly text saying, "What did you do? Drive all the way to Memphis?" With no response, she tries calling her. The first time it goes straight to voicemail. The second time Jessica does answer, and when she does, she says, "I'll be home soon to clean my room." But something wasn't right about that phone conversation. According to her mom, her voice was eerily quiet, but even more so, the background was incredibly quiet. At approximately 8:07 p.m., a 911 call was received by two gentlemen who were making their way driving down Heron Road, and they were calling to report a car that was on fire on the side of the road. Firefighters quickly arrived at the scene and immediately saw the burning car. And a few moments later, they noticed that a young woman was walking towards them, and she was not in good condition at all. She was also on fire. Her skin was completely charred. Her hair was basically gone. One of the firefighters ran up to her to wrap a blanket around her, and Jessica collapsed near the truck, the fire truck. And when she did, she murmured very quietly what sounded like, "Help me." And then one of the firefighters said, who did this to you? What happened? And, she was struggling to say much of anything at that point. The smoke inhalation, the burns, the pain. She was not in good shape at all, like I said. But what she responded to them, while again faint, sounded something like Derek or Eric. They didn't really know what to do with that information. Jessica was life-flighted to a nearby hospital in Memphis. When her parents found out what happened to her, they were sick. And by the time they got to the hospital, the mom rushed over to Jessica's bedside to be near her. And she could instantly tell how much Jessica was suffering, how much pain she was in, to the point that she leaned over to her and said, "It's okay, baby. We're here. If you need to go, you can go." And pretty instantly after, Jessica took her last breath and she passed away. The autopsy report showed that 93% of Jessica's body had been burned, and her clothing had been doused in gasoline, which was an instant indicator that somebody had done this on purpose and they had done it with malicious intent. This was no accident. Investigators immediately started their investigation, kicking it off by retracing Jessica's steps from earlier in that day. Her mom also let them know that Earlier, on the day of the 6th, the day of the incident, Jessica had been driving around with her friend Kesha, and it turns out there was also a male with them as well, and his name was Quentin Tellis, 27 years old. When the officers approached Quentin to question him, he said, yeah, he had been with them earlier that day. He didn't know Jessica very well, only knowing her for about 2 weeks, but he was just friends with her. They rode around for a little while, and then later in the day, Jessica dropped him off at home, and he didn't see or hear from her after that. Police were able to recover Jessica's phone, and guess what? There were text messages that proved Quentin to be a liar. Text messages actually showed that Jessica and Quentin were definitely more than friends. They had not only been texting each other in the days leading up to the accident, but also the day of the accident. And the text messages were definitely beyond just friendly. There was one text where Quentin told Jessica, I'm, and she said, oh, Lord. Let's just say there was some intimacy going on there for sure. When investigators approached Quentin with this information, his story instantly changed. He said, yes, we had been, in somewhat of a relationship. We had been intimate in her car out in the field behind my house, but it did not happen the day of the accident. Investigators started to search Quentin's property, and they did find a gas can in a shed out behind his house, but they weren't able to arrest him just yet. When they viewed the video surveillance footage from the gas station that Jessica had initially went to get gas, because she did go, they were able to see her pull into the parking lot, walk toward the store, stop, look to the side of her as if she was talking to someone. She stepped out of the camera's view, and then when she stepped back in, she walked in, paid for her gas, and left. New cell phone data, again, shows Quentin is a liar. Quentin and Jessica's phones were traveling with each other all the way up from when she went to the gas station, when she left to the gas station, all the way to Quentin's home, and then to the scene of the incident, where they then went dark, both phones, for around 37 minutes, which is when they anticipate that the accident or the fire actually started. When Quentin was approached with this new information, what do you guess? His story changed. He said, there's no way that I could have been with her. I was in another town buying a prepaid card for my girlfriend. Okay. They checked the surveillance footage at the store that he claimed that he had went to, and sure enough, he was at a store at 8:37 p.m. in another town called Batesville. But keep in mind, yes, Batesville was another town, but it was technically only a 15-minute drive. The 911 call came in at 8:07 p.m. He would have had plenty of time to commit the crime, get in his car, leave, drive to Batesville, and buy the prepaid card for his girlfriend. That wasn't a good enough alibi. Quentin did end up being arrested, and he went on trial in October of 2017. And while the prosecution argued that he could have gotten upset because Jessica rejected him, maybe she didn't want to be intimate with him, the defense argued that if she knew Quentin and she knew it was him that did this, then why, when firefighters asked her who did it, did she murmur something that sounded like Derek or Eric? That ended in a hung jury and a mistrial. He went back to trial in September of 2018, and this time they brought in a burn specialist. The burn specialist did say that with the extent and severeness of her injuries, there was no way that she would have been of sound mind and body, and her murmuring something that sounded like Derek or Eric could have been anything. Even so, the jury still could not make a decision, with 6 saying guilty, 6 saying not guilty, and it was declared another mistrial. But it gets even messy. In 2015, a woman by the name of Mandy in Louisiana was found brutally unalived in her apartment. Investigators noticed that her debit card was missing, but had also been used after she was unalived. Those transactions were traced back to, yep, you guessed it, Quentin Tellis. He is currently serving time for this crime with an expected release date of 2027. Sadly, Jessica's mom passed away in 2021, never getting to see justice for her daughter. This is a case that I definitely encourage you guys to check out. It's crazy, but it's also sad, because Jessica definitely deserved that justice that she never received.